Hi. Let's see this Iron Mass build for a Guardian that summons powerful skeletons. The Iron Mass is the weapon this whole build revolves around. It's worn by the character and his skeletons, who deal triple damage with it after the player hits something. This condition is easy to fulfill with a leap slam and resolute technique to never miss any hit. The triple damage doesn't affect ailments like poison, so to make a proper use of this damage bonus we need to gain a lot of flat damage. It can be easily sourced from Guardian's elemental relics. The overall damage output is unusual as we focused on the quantity more than the type. The auras granted by these minions add flat fire and lightning damage to attacks, while hatred offers only cold damage sourced from base physical damage. Another source of damage is the Covenant armor with its chaos damage. Chaos damage is especially good because of the withered debuff. More chaos damage is sourced from the optional Owl's Uprising amulet with its Envy aura, and the new Dead Reckoning jewel that adds chaos damage to minions based on the energy shield on the shield, which can be substantial. Carrion Golem adds another layer of damage. The DPS is inconsistent. You need to summon a lot of skeletons and then perform an attack to activate the damage bonus and apply curses. We have also used fresh meat support, so only the recently spawned skeletons will deal a lot of damage. It's low during mapping but high against single targets. The build is a hybrid one due to the abundance of ES on nearly all of the aforementioned unique items. The maximum life is still an important part of it. It has capped block chance against spells and attacks, some armor, the 10 fortification stacks from AG's Kingmaker, Sentinel, and Time of Need passive. Clear speed with these melee skeletons is not very impressive. There are faster minion builds out there. The single target damage is very high due to the ramping up withered stacks and the Assassin's Mark curse. It's possible to assemble this build on a low budget. You can even start without core items. Skeletons are good on their own. It's a version of the build where we don't use Fleshcrafter, but it can be implemented with some minor changes. The reason for not using it is the Covenant. The Iron Mass has base physical damage that we can convert to something else with Triad Grip. It's not necessary as most of the DPS is added from auras and Covenant, but we still encourage wearing cheap unique gloves that you can corrupt for curse on hit. Ancient Skull is by far the best option. Your minions hear whispers and have 50% increased attack speed and damage. They're disposable. You should summon a new batch of skeletons every 3 seconds anyway to maximize your DPS from fresh meat. It's one of the reasons we go for 5 maximum power charges, to get increased crit chance for minions. If your minions are too fragile, go for the regular rare minion helmet instead. Iron Mass will be worn by you and your skeletons. The triple damage only affects hit damage and will not translate into ailment damage. The caveat is, that we need to hit an enemy once every 4 seconds to get this bonus. Use Leap Slam on enemies to achieve it. Skeletons will also inflict Withered debuff that makes your opponent take increased chaos damage. Emperor's Vigilance is cheap and grants up to 385 energy shield, resulting in a lot of extra flat damage from Dead Reckoning. You can still get more from a good rare shield. The Covenant grants simply the most damage, which is then tripled. It's what we recommend. If you use the replica version, which is a bit worse, be sure to select Frostbite Curse. Fleshcrafter alters the whole build, but it's what we would recommend for a start. It's simpler and cheaper. If you plan to use it, you have to give up your hexes that lower elemental resistances. You will now only use Assassin's Mark and Despair, so you won't need Anathema Ring. Whispers of Doom will be enough. Physical damage on your minions is undesirable, but there's not much of it. By converting their damage with Triad Grip you gain some extra DPS. Remember to corrupt them for a Despair or Elemental Weakness on hit. Hands of the High Templar gloves are comparable to the Triad Grip. They have good base stats and you can corrupt them many times to apply curses on hit, gain increased maximum life, energy shield, or increase the level of socketed gems, which can include Enlighten support. We recommend getting Elemental Weakness and Despair on hit here. Abyss Jewels are a major source of damage, so we naturally go for the Darkness Enthroned. Put your best jewels here. The Jinxed Juju is a cheap amulet that increases the effect of auras on minions. It also grants some attributes and chaos resistance. Owl's Uprising, all attributes, is an expensive amulet, but the free Envy aura it grants is an enormous boost to your DPS. It adds flat chaos damage. We recommend switching to it at some point. Anathema will allow you to apply 5 curses. Skeletons deal 4 types of damage with nearly 100% crit chance, so we can apply Elemental Weakness, Assassin's Mark, Despair, and 2 other hexes. Allocate Instability and Overcharge Notables to extend your power charge cap. The most important curses are Elemental Weakness, Despair, and Assassin's Mark. Caspiro's Flavor of Elegant Hubris lets you ignore attribute requirements with his Supreme Ostentation, which is good as we don't have a lot of opportunities to gain them from items. If you're willing to gather the missing dexterity, you won't need it. Another reason for using Elegant Hubris is to allocate a lot of Slum Lord notables via Impossible Escape. Each grants increased minion damage. It's a very expensive endeavor. The Necromantic Aegis variant of Impossible Escape is pricey, but with a good Elegant Hubris socketed near Shaper notable, it can vastly improve your minion's damage with the aforementioned notables for minion damage. It's completely optional. The new Dead Reckoning is a major reason to try out this build. It adds tons of flat chaos damage to your minions' attacks, given you have a shield with a lot of energy shield. Because of the abundance of good unique items, it can be hard to cap the elemental resistances and get the required attributes. Your rare gear pieces already require these resistances at high tiers, otherwise, you would need to gain them from jewels, which is something that should be avoided. Jewels are to be used offensively. Get a rare shield with over 400 energy shield. For suffixes, seek an elemental or chaos resistances. The +1 to level of all minion skill gems prefix can be good too. Regular boots are enough. Just get maximum life, resistances, and movement speed here. For an Eldritch implicit, get Scorched or Brittle Ground. If your AG is wearing Legacy of Fury, the ground is already scorched, so in such case go for Brittle. Rare rings should provide you with maximum life and as much resistances as you can afford. If you struggle with mana, craft the prefix to reduce mana cost of skills. If you use bone rings, seek a mod that increases minions' attack speed. If you don't use Supreme Ostentation, look here for dexterity. Rare Ghastly Abyss jewels will be very important. For their prefixes, look for maximum life to your character or various types of added damage for your minions. For suffixes, get Missing Resistances, increased attack speed for minions, or increased minions damage if you've used a minion skill recently. If you can afford a large minion cluster jewel with 12 passives, each with increased effect, go for it. The more reasonably priced jewel with 8 passives and 3 notables will also do fine. Progenesis is the best flask in the game, so we have to include it as an aspirational option. It redirects a portion of incoming hit damage to be taken as unavoidable over the next 4 seconds. The build needs only a bit of extra attack and spell block chance to reach the 75% cap. You can gain it from Rumi's Concoction Flask. Use Starlight Chalice only to apply all 3 types of exposure. Exposure lowers resistances. The Guardian's Elemental Relics makes you deal all 3 types of elemental damage. Cold damage from hatred is based on physical damage before conversion, so it will be there even with no green sockets on your Triad grip. For magic flasks, get 1 life flask of staunching to remove bleeding, a basalt flask with increased armor, and a quicksilver or silver flask with increased movement speed. Melee skeletons can wield the Iron Mass. They will use it with their basic melee attacks. Use the Vol version to summon tons of them during boss fights. Link it to minion damage, multi-strike, ruthless, increased critical damage, and fresh meat. If you don't want to rely on fleeting but powerful buff from fresh meat support, use hypothermia or elemental damage with attacks support gems instead of fresh meat and critical damage. Carrion Golem grants more damage to your skeletons. This bonus should be capped at 50%. It also grants them base flat physical damage. Use a regular Animate Guardian, but be sure it can withstand the damage from an Ancient Skull before summoning it. It can wear the regular AG items with Legacy of Fury boots. Link these 2 minions with Feeding Frenzy and Minion Life Support gems. With Spirit offering, your minions have increased critical strike chance and bonus critical strike multiplier. It requires a corpse. Haste increases movement and attack speed for your skeletons. Precision adds accuracy rating and increases critical strike chance. With Generosity support, linked auras will affect only your allies, but their effect gets increased. You can unlink haste from it if you want to go faster and deal less damage. You can also unlink Precision and give up this gem slot completely. If that's the case, replace Generosity with Molten Shell. Use Assassin's Mark. Damage against marked enemy has increased crit chance and crit multiplier. We've used Mark on hit to cast Mark automatically with Leap Slam. You may want to cast Assassin's Mark manually and replace this gem slot with Desecrate to cast Offering in boss arenas. Link these skill gems with Life Tap support. Determination adds and increases your armor so that you can tank more physical hit damage. Tempest Shield grants shock immunity and a lot of spell block chance. You may now be able to cap it at 75%. Link these two with Enlighten to reserve less mana. Leap Slam is an attack used as a movement skill, to apply Hex Curses, mark on hit, grant the triple damage bonus, and activate the Bastion of Hope. It cannot be swapped for shield charge. We need to attack with a weapon, not a shield. Link it with Hex Touch and 2 hexes that you want to apply. These can be Despair, Elemental Weakness, Flammability, Conductivity, Frostbite, Punishment, or Enfeeble. The choice of your curses depends on the glove's corruption you have and the type of damage your minions are dealing the most, which may vary depending on the sockets on your Triad grip gloves and curses. During Act 2, kill all the bandits to receive 2 additional passive skill points. Soul of Lunaris is what we would pick. You will need some extra mobility and durability in crowded areas. For Minor God you can pick almost anything, just remember you're shock immune, so Garukin is pointless. We've picked Gruthkul for physical damage reduction. The passive skill tree looks similar to all the other minion-oriented ones. Pick up minion damage, some minion life, and critical strike chance for them. Get some maximum life, maximum power charges to match your curses, reservation efficiency, and reduce the mana cost of your skills. Don't forget to allocate the Resolute Technique Keystone, Lord of the Dead, and Death Attunement notables. For masteries, select Reduced Mana Cost of Skills and Increased Mana Reservation Efficiency as 2 mana masteries, 50 life and 30% of mana cost shift to life as 2 life masteries, increased effect of offerings and elemental penetration as minion offense mastery, and minion life recovery on minion life death for minion defense mastery. That is all you need to know about this build. Like the video and subscribe to the channel.